Welcome to today's Daily Dose. I'm TJ Norman. We continue to look at the good news in Mark. Today, we will be diving into Mark chapter 2, verses 23 through 27, a passage where Jesus teaches us a profound lesson of the Sabbath. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields as his disciples walked along. They began to pick some heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing this unlawful act on the Sabbath?" He answered, "You have never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which was lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath." In the passage, we see Jesus and his disciples walking through a grain field on the Sabbath. The disciples began to pick heads of grain, and the Pharisees quickly accused them of doing what was unlawful. The Pharisees were very strict about observing the Sabbath and seeing that it was a day of complete rest with no work allowed. Jesus responds by referring to an incident involving King David, highlighting that the human need can take precedence over ceremonial law. This was a radical statement challenging the Pharisees' rigid interpretation of the Sabbath. The key verse here is in Mark chapter 2, verses 27. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Jesus is teaching that the Sabbath should be a blessing and a day of rest for people and not a burden. It's a gift from God intended to benefit us, not to constrain us and with unnecessary rules. Additionally, Jesus declares himself Lord even of the Sabbath, asserting his authority over the Sabbath and by extension, all religious practices. This reinforces that our focus should be on the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. And how does this apply to our daily lives today? We can sometimes get caught up in the rules and the rituals of our faith, losing sight on the true purpose of Jesus. Jesus invites us to remember our religious practice should serve to draw us closer to God and to each other. The Sabbath is a reminder to rest, recharge, and refocus on what truly matters. It's a time to step back from our busy lives and remember that we are not defined by our work alone, but by our relationship with God. Let's take this to heart and ensure that our observance of the Sabbath or any religious practice brings us closer to God's love and grace. Thank you for joining me on today's Daily Dose. Remember, the Sabbath was made for you. Take this time to rest in God's presence and experience His peace. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow for another Daily Dose.